This is the weekly roundup brought to you by the Conversation Project, and I am Jay Cleveland Payne with 12 stories that I will present to you in mere moments. Once it caught my attention from your engagement we had from our our daily show. This is the weekly show, our daily show that's called Things You Might Not Have Heard. Every single weekday morning, we give it to you live here in wherever feed you're watching in on Facebook. Maybe you're watching on X or on YouTube, but we give you stories from the past 7 days, from Friday, September the 20th to Friday, September 27th, 2024, that you deemed were conversational, and we put out there for you to engage in for further discussion. Now, if you want more details on how we do these things, go to our website. This is a conversationproject.com, and it's all about how we get these things together and we produce them for you. And you can also email us at your convenience at the conversation inbox at gmail.com for whatever you want to comment on. Remember, we are your news side piece. That's what it says in the hashtag. We are not your supplemental. We are your supplemental, not your mainstream source of news. So we give you some things that are off the beaten path, but we stick things in as well that are the important stories, and also remind you that we think are great partners and Ground News as our affiliates support for this show. We'll talk more about them deeper into the program. Now let's get into the stories for today. We have 12 stories in the queue from you that I deem were conversational, no particular order, day or whatnot, as they pop in here, but these are some that seem like they meant the most to me and meant a lot to you in the process of the week. We start off with where we ended basically last week, and Mark Robinson. The headline that we broke into on Monday was North Carolina GOP governor candidate Mark Robinson vows to keep running after a report of racial and sexual comments. All the big bad things that were said about Mark Robinson, which were kind of whispered and rumored, came out in a expose, a K-file expose, if you will, by CNN. And the report came out on Thursday. So Friday, all the S hit the fan for this guy. And it meant some time for Donald Trump going back to North Carolina to not talk about Mark Robinson. Mark Robinson to basically tell folks he wasn't going nowhere, which he is still not doing. Now, the update on Mark Robinson is he's still not going anywhere. Many Republicans have sort of distanced themselves or are not talking about him. In fact, Donald Trump was asking one of the shout outs going to a plane, are you still going to support Mark Robinson? And his response was, I don't know anything about the situation, which after calling him the next best thing since Martin Luther King and him on steroids, double Martin Luther King, it's kind of hard to understand how the situation. The Republican Party in North Carolina sticking by their man to be their governor, even though his chance to be governor is slimmer now because he was already losing. And essentially the day to get him to drop out was the day after they asked him. So he wasn't going anywhere regardless. Let's move on to our second story for this morning. As I said, no particular order from these stories, but there's stories that sort of piqued my interest and I thought were the biggest ones for the weekend. Let's go to Putin again, who let us know that his words about his endorsement for Kamala Harris, it was all a joke. It's all being silly, all funning with the Americans in the world, saying, you know what, that Harris, she'd be a pretty good president. We think we like her. I'd like to see her win. We get word from the actual folks in charge of the communication from Russia saying that, yeah, that was just a joke. During a speech, he quipped that Russia was backing Harris from months ago, right after Harris was taking over from the spot from Joe Biden. But the Kremlin clarified that this was not a serious endorsement. It was a joke. He was riffing along in the speech. The Kremlin spokespersons emphasized it is not an actual declaration of support, as he basically has never actually endorsed the president. He's sort of said he likes Donald Trump in the past, but never actually endorsed the president, from my knowledge, because it comes off as crass and tampering with things. It's also probably a psyop to all freak us out in the future. Or than right now, I guess. Future is basically 5 weeks away for the election. So I guess the future is now. Speaking of Kamala Harris and things about her, Janet Jackson's apology for repeating that Kamala Harris's conspiracy theory that she's not black actually was not an apology or did not come from her at all, says a rep. A representative had to clarify the apology that circulated online for repeating the conspiracy theory that Vice President Kamala Harris did not come from the pop star herself. In fact, Kamala Harris was questioned, or her background was questioned by Janet Jackson, I guess at this point 2 weeks ago, about, well, maybe she's not actually black. And then after some backlash on that one, there was an apology online saying, I apologize for the statement. Then we find out from a rep from Janet Jackson, an actual rep from Janet Jackson, that the rep that said the apology was there was not authorized, and that dude was fired, says Jackson. And she actually spoke nothing else about the claims because although we think it's been debunked, because, Kamala Harris basically said, I'm black. I went to a black university. My father's black. My mother's Asian. My father's black. I'm black and I'm Asian. So I'm black. That all should make sense, right? Anyway, Jackson emphasized that her current team did not offer the apology and also did not offer any more statements against the apology, the non-apology she gave, or the statement from the non-apology. So she essentially is still questioning whether Kamala Harris is black or not. You can take that as you want to. Deeper conversation, email us or comment in this actual video for what you want to say about what you want to say. Meanwhile, what you want to say about your money? Say it right here, right now, as the U.S. is cracking down on cheap Chinese goods sites like Shein and Temu that are loved by American shoppers. And what's going to happen? There are some loopholes called de minimis loophole specifically, that these companies are using to basically get around tariffs, which Donald Trump loves, on low-cost goods. So if you sell stuff really, really cheap, they don't get big tariffs on them. If you're selling things like cars and computers and things like that, well, yeah, they're obvious. They cost a lot of money. So you throw a big tariff on them, and it supposedly will price them out of the market for consumers here. In those cases, the consumers will basically pay more for it if they want it. And in most cases, if they want it, they're going to pay more for it because the importer that brings it in is going to charge more for it. It happens that way. In this case, Temu and Shein, who sells low-cost electronics and low-cost goods like fashion things that are very, 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 very cheap to make. So they're very cheap to send off and easy to make money off of. Get past this loophole by shipping these things at low cost because they don't have to pay the tariffs. White House wants to close that loophole and basically throw the same level of tariffs on the cheaper stuff as they do on the more expensive stuff. What's that mean? That means those clothes you get from Shein and those electronics you get from Temu are going to cost a little or a lot more based on how tariff rates are working. This will make less cheap things on the markets here in the United States and hopefully better stuff for people in the States who are selling and doing wares. Or you'll buy it anyway because it still may be cheaper based off what's going on because it's so cheap to build. It may still be cheaper to buy that way. Our fifth story in the docket today is on Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, who's been indicted. And this was the original post we have on his indictment that was early in the week. It's been changed to the fact that he's actually pled not guilty to the charges, which are essentially peddling his influence, selling his influence to Turkey. Why Turkey? Because they're there, I guess. Turkish influence is essentially what he's being charged with, and also the shenanigans that are involved that. Basically, there have been some sorts of Turkish entities that have wanted to get some inroads into the United States politics, United States government, United States business, and New York itself. And essentially, this has been an ongoing thing since his days back as the Brooklyn Borough president, and of course, as a state senator. From way back when, Eric Adams has been known to be kind of shady, but people let it go. Now that he's mayor of New York and big things are happening, his kind of shady has caught up to him and caught up to those around him. Many people around him have gone to jail, are being indicted, have their homes raided. In fact, one of the bigger stories about this week is the story about a cell phone that Eric Adams owned, a business cell phone that had a 4-digit code on it that he changed to a 6-digit code because he didn't want any of his staff to be tempted to go in there and change anything. And then when he handed the phone to the feds and said, "Can you unlock it?" It's like, yeah, no, I forgot the code. So yeah, there's that. That sounds kind of odd. The irony of things is that these are actual charges that could send the former police officer and current mayor to jail, to actual jail. We'll see what happens. Right now, they're trying to figure out whether they can ask him to resign. He's not going to do that. The governor may have the power to remove him and put someone else in place. They're trying to figure out if they can actually do that because right now, a big old red mark on the state of New York and the city itself is Eric Adams being indicted for corruption while in office. Also things including conspiracy, wires, fraud, bribery, fraud, soliciting illegal campaign contributions. Those are all very, 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 very bad. Also dealing with very, 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 very bad is Sean Combs, who on top of dealing with his new charges for running his illegal sex operation, is now accused of rape by another person in another lawsuit. And I believe, unless my ideas are just crazy, I think a newer lawsuit was actually filed late Friday after we pulled the details on this one. This was an early week a charge. I think another charge popped up in there, and we'll talk about we'll briefly throw the baby oil here in a moment. But Sean Diddy Combs, new allegations, sexual lawsuit where a woman is accusing him of raping her, secretly recording an incident because he was in a radio studio with a bodyguard where it happened, and they actually recorded it there. Videos and audios of the things have been shared in various places, all that great stuff that you know about these sort of cases. So there's that. This is a new rape lawsuit on top of all the other lawsuits and him being in prison right now for his conspiracy and his racketeering and running criminal enterprise things. Like I said, I believe, I don't have the full notes in front of me. We pulled this from the week story of the bigger stories. I'm almost positive we have something in the queue for the weekend that is another issue of another person coming out of the woodwork for a rape case, a sexual assault case against Diddy that's separate from this one from earlier this week. Things not looking good for Mr. Sean Combs at all right now. Oh, the baby oil, that might be in the queue as well. So we may talk about that deeper and detailed. But Costco says not only can they get, Costco said he couldn't buy 1,000 bottles of baby oil, which was essentially what his manager said. But he buys it from Costco. They buy it in bulk. They don't sell baby oil at all. And if they did, 1,000 bottles is a way too much in bulk for Costco to sell for a single customer. Who needs 1,000 bottles? Hospitals don't need 1,000 bottles of baby oil. So wherever he got all that oil from, Costco says, not I, said the Costco. I'll take a moment to pause in the news story. 6 stars down, 6 more to go, and get you a chance to let you know that we need your assistance. We need you to help spread the love of these videos, of what we produce out here, by getting you to like, share, and subscribe them to the world. Whether you're watching this video or listening to an audio version when we clipped out from the aftermath, like the presentation, the video, the audio, share it with other folks who are all into the news, looking for quicker stops of news, looking for news hits that are not exactly on the beating path, and looking for a bit of extra commentary. We're trying to do less commentary in the weekly roundup now so we can make it pithier. But you want more deeper detail and commentary, follow us, subscribe to this feed, subscribe to this podcast link, subscribe to the video feed of your choice, YouTube, Facebook, and X as well. And you'll see more stories like this coming through, and you get a chance to actually engage and help us pick these stories. We'll explain that when we get to talking about the feeds towards the end of the show. But like, share, and subscribe. We're looking for your assistance, looking for your help to get things done around here. We can do a lot more with your helping us get the word out. So that would be awesome if you could do that. Now, let's get back to the news. Something that's awesome in the way of someone maybe finally getting their just desserts is coming. As a judge has approved the auctions to liquidate Alex Jones's InfoWars to help pay for the Sandy Hook families and their $1 billion worth of damages they won in the lawsuit. Yes, one group of people got $1 billion a lawsuit for defamation, essentially, by Alex Jones, just being a total jerk. And so the InfoWars platform, the media platform, the parent company, and the actual platform that is the talk show that still lives in some sense, although it's hard to find unless you're looking for it. Well, we liquidated. Everything must go piece by piece. We're looking at losing all the fixtures, losing all the light bulbs, losing everything, selling things, whatever they can to get as much money out of it as possible. This comes from the false claims about the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook, the elementary school, in which Alex Jones decided to say that the kids were all crisis actors. It was all fake. They're just trying to gin up things. It's those gosh darn liberals being liberals again and trying to scare people to take away your guns. And then he got sued, and then he lost, and he filed for bankruptcy to save his money, and he got divorced, and all sorts of other crazy things. And his wife sued him for full custody because he said he was an evil person and bad to his kids, and a whole lot of stuff. Alex Jones is a bad person. I'm saying those words. You can call it what you want to, but he's not a great person. And, he found a way to get around things and make things an entertaining route so he can make some money and fool people who didn't know much better to think that things were real, that they were not. But right now, every piece of InfoWars is being sold piece by piece to cover $1 billion of assets he needs to pay back. I've got back money needs to be paid back from issues I can't own, but not $1 billion. And trust me, this ain't InfoWars. You ain't making that much money off what we have here for the Conversation Project. Let's move on to what's actually heroic. I actually am impressed by this one myself. Trump to rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on October the 5th. That's next weekend, returning to the site of the assassination attempt, or actually Yeah, next Saturday, I believe, if my math in my head is going properly. Former President Donald Trump is going to hold a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on October the 5th. And this marks his return to the site of an early assassination attempt back in July. Yeah, he was doing a rally out there, out in the field, just a normal general Trump rally, basically getting started. And the magic of the just oddity of the incident is what makes it amazing. This was the incident where normally he just sort of riffs off the teleprompter and sees where he's supposed to be and just kind of talks to the folks. He decided on this day to talk about a poll. Well, he talks about polls all the time, but he wanted to actually show a graphic of the poll. And so he was waiting for someone to pull it up. Hey, can you pull that poll picture up, whatever? And he turns his head to look towards the screen because the video screens aren't in front of him. There's just, background screen. So he turns around so he can kind of read off the screen and kind of point out what's going on there. And in that moment, you hear the shots. And in that moment, he reaches for his ear. And in that moment, the Secret Service comes and tackles him to get him on the ground. All the faults and all the bad stuff from the incident: one, someone trying to assassinate him, which is wrong, and two, the Secret Service not having their game on properly, which is extremely wrong, came to light, still coming to light. We'll find out more about this one. But because of this, and it's going to happen now, breaking news on this one, they're moving the venue in Butler for security reasons. So moving the venues on a lot of things you see doing because of security reasons going forward. This was going to be inside anyway, but they're doing another change essentially to a place with more lockdown security going forward, as we should. As said often, whatever you think about either candidate, people taking shots at them, little shots at them, is the wrong way to go. The violence is not the right answer. Although the Democrats are saying the violence isn't the answer, and the Republicans are saying the Democrats should stop making people mad so they shoot at Trump. Those are true statements that are out there. We'll see what happens. Election day, less than 2 months. This is the end of September. So essentially 5 weeks out, we're going to have an answer somewhere within a couple days out of that one, what's going on. But we know that Trump is still on the road. Kamala is still on the road. Everyone's on the road trying to make that job, make that last ditch effort to convince us, U.S., that they should be in charge of us, U.S. I'm going to take this story for the seriousness. I'm going to keep the snark out of it as best as possible. But Brett Favre told the world while he was telling Congress that he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The former NFL quarterback revealed in a congressional hearing that he has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The 54-year-old made a disclosure while discussing his health and challenges during the testimony, with the diagnosis adding concerns about long-term health effects on his football career. He being known for taking lots of hits in the NFL. He being known for being sort of reckless in his play, but people loved him for it because he's Brett Favre. That's what he did. He's been doing it since college, so he's been doing it all along. The problem is, why was he in Congress? Why was he testifying before the body? It literally had nothing to do with his possible CTE or any head injuries or anything about football. It was about money that he was taking as a private citizen or as a citizen of Mississippi that was given for welfare initiatives that essentially have been alleged to be spent on things like sports facilities for his daughter's college and things like that. And, the whole cars and Bentleys and things like that. I don't think he bought Bentleys, whatever, but basically equipment from farms and equipment for sports facilities and not for welfare programs, that was using Brett Favre as a way to solicit those things because Brett Favre is a famous person from Mississippi. That's why I was there for Congress to basically take his lumps. We're not talking about that. In fact, I have no idea how that played out because we started to talk about Brett Favre and his diagnosis for Parkinson's pretty much from the get-go. Here's a story that's a bit more complicated than it seems, but the simple part is the Cards Against Humanity people are suing Elon Musk and SpaceX specifically over land they bought to curb the border wall that Trump was going to build. The backstory of this was when Trump was hot and heavy on building this border wall, Cards Against Humanity bought a big chunk of land that was right there on the border so they can say, nope, we're not going to let you build it. Many people on the border that have land there right there at the border, a lot of ranchers, a lot of farmers, and some people that just have nature reserves, believe it or not, that are open spaces, not pretty much not where migrants are really crossing so much, but they're just open spaces that are out there. We're kind of upset because a wall would kill their business, literally split their land in half so they can get things done. Cards Against Humanity went and bought some land and said, ha, here's the joke. But what happened from that was Elon Musk and SpaceX, basically, SpaceX wanted to use the land, so they offered up money that was well below what the seeking price was. That should have been there, and SpaceX just sort of put some stuff out there, used it for storage, illegally anyway. Cards Against Humanity is looking for $15 million in damages, accusing SpaceX of disregarding their ownership and violating property rights, squatting, if you will. Of all things, Cards Against Humanity saying that Elon Musk and SpaceX is squatting on their land that they bought to keep the Trump administration from building a wall to keep the Mexicans, air quotes, off our land and out of coming across, illegally crossing into the United States. There's a lot more into that. So read the link to the story. The story links there's a link to the stories in the presentation here where you can find out more about all the stories we talked about. But this is actually a bigger deal than it might seem, other than just, two jokey people, joking each other. This has some actual serious repercussions in what's going on in the land and on the law. Speaking of the land and the law, this is another one that's a big one that's been going on for years, but because of a small sort of blurb that I saw and I put in there in our feeds for things you might not have heard, it got a bit of response, quite a bit of response. And a lot of people are learning a lot about how local systems are dealing with voting. There was the talk, and I'll get to the headline in a second. There was a talk, of course, for the continuing resolution to keep the government funded about something called the SAVES Act, which was telling all states, all municipalities, all local governments to essentially check people's citizenship, make sure they're actual citizens of the United States before they could vote in the national election, which you must be a national citizen to vote in the national election. Basically, checking their ID was not enough. So, or essentially, that means checking their ID was a mandatory thing because you had to see where their citizenship was. When many states don't need you to show an ID, but they can ask for it and you can decline if you want to, and they can change it later. For Arizona, the Supreme Court ruled that 98,000 people whose citizenship was actually unconfirmed, they did not know where there was in their when they registered, can actually vote in the election coming up this year. Now, what came about, this was a 20-year database error that had people listed as wrong. So 20 years ago, somebody clicked the wrong things on a batch of people that was almost 100,000 people. And so you don't know where their citizenship lies, at least from there. Some of those things have been cleared up. Many have not because the paperwork, essentially. Now, what this means is these are almost 100,000 people who can vote in Arizona in the election coming up in a few weeks. What we've learned from many people commenting on this in the comments and from extra research is, based on your municipality, you don't have to be a citizen to vote in things that may affect you locally. There may be a tax going forward that if you have a worker's permit, if you are there legally and you are paying your taxes and you are in good standing, you can vote in elections that matter to you. You just can't vote in the larger election. So this election might be off to you, but you can actually vote for things that are like taxes and referendums and things like that because it affects you as a worker and your money directly in your pocket. You can do things like that in the local places and in some statewide elections where there are things that are, taxes, things like that. But it's normally on things that are really dealing with people and economy and life issues that are there, not actual people in charge. Because as a non-citizen, you don't have the right to vote on the president or senator or a representative. You may get a chance based on your actual jurisdiction to vote on a school board member or things like that. So it's also your mileage may vary in the place where you live. But for this one, a lot of people are highly upset because that means 98,000 people can vote in this election, where some of them believe they don't have the proper citizenship and are lying and cheating and may steal this election, especially in a place like Arizona, which is a hot button and definitely a well-contested state for electoral college votes in this season. And finally, our 12th story. We cannot get away from her. She just won't go away. In fact, the update we have coming up in the queue for this weekend, which we may talk about come Monday or come next week if it really is that big, is that this star, Chappell Roan, is, or Chappell Roan, I say it both ways because I'm still not sure, had to clarify her stance in the election after some backlash, what she said. Now, her update is she's taking a break. She's going off the road. She's not going to hit some tour dates because she's just stressed out, folks, because y'all are getting at her. But the story from here, which is a repeat from the story from last week, is that Chappell Roan had to clarify that she's not voting for Donald Trump when she made a statement about, essentially both sidesism, essentially saying, there are reasons for people to vote for who they want to, so people should vote for who they want to. I'm not giving a actual declaration. I'm not endorsing anyone. My endorsement means nothing. That's basically what she said. She had a TikTok video that clarified what was going on, but she also said in that she's stressing the actions and voting decisions speak louder than endorsements. So who you vote for is what you mean, and who I'm voting for is what I'm doing, but what I'm saying means nothing. By the way, I'm not voting for Donald Trump. She had to say that because you have to say, especially after the Taylor Swift big endorsement, and basically as many Hollywood stars are jumping into fences, not over fences, but literally smacking your face into fences to say who they're voting for. And a lot of them jumping on the bandwagon after Kamala Harris was ceremoniously brought in to, as they unceremoniously got rid of Joe Biden. There's a whole story about that one. You can see how people can explain that one. I don't know her music. Apparently, she redid Champagne Supernova to Red Wine Supernova. They probably playing in the background lots of things that I don't know who she is. I can't pick her out of a lineup. I watched a lot of videos of her lately to kind of figure out how to pronounce her name or what was about her. I don't particularly care. Her endorsement, she's right about that. Your endorsement, your voting actions, who you vote for, means more than just an endorsement. So vote, say, don't endorse and then not go vote. I have talked about in past, we're not going to do that right now, about who I am voting for, why I'm voting for them, and why I wish I didn't have to. So my endorsement means nothing as well. But Chappell Roan, still in the news, one of the bigger stories across the week that popped up our attention because she piqued your interest, and that's why this roundup exists. Right now, we're going to talk about Ground News. Ground News is our affiliate sponsor, one of our affiliate sponsors for the Conversation Project, and we're proud to have them as a part of our family to help us keep things going. As an affiliate support, you have to buy from them. All our sponsors are affiliate sponsors. So you buy from them, we get a small commission coming back. But what can you get from Ground News? Why am I asking you in a free news article, free news venue, you don't pay anything for this video, to pay for more news? Well, if you're a news nerd like me, and I'm sure you probably are if you're watching this, you are very, very in tune on how things are being covered and might want to know exactly how things are going. Ground News can help you out with that. It helps us out with that for many stories because we'll see something out there we'll pull from some aggregator and wonder why the news source seems to be kind of biased, why the news coverage seems to be covered by one end and not the other. And it's pretty simple because many venues don't want you to hear about it because it makes their guys look good, or their guys look bad and other guys look good, or this just seems like something that doesn't really fit their narratives or the narratives they want you to believe. Ground News gives you great information on insights on how news is covered, the people behind it, the companies behind it, and the leanings and the money that comes from those people. You can see in the picture there, this was a picture from a while back from when Kamala Harris took over the presidency run for Joe Biden. You can see where it's covered, where it's mostly white, basically covered mostly in a centralized neutral point, where a little bit of super blue, a little bit of super red, super conservative, super liberal kind of covered it. You can see where things are gauged, and there's also a blind side function, a blind side page where you can see stories that are essentially all red, all blue, and sometimes neither of both. Just they seem to be all clear, but the mainstream media, the ones you deem as being more biased, don't seem to be covering it. It's a great place to really get some insight on what news is being covered and how it's being covered and who's covering it particularly. And we think you'll get something out of it. You can get great news coverage for about $1 a month, or super duper news coverage, including all the blind spot issues, for less than $10 a month. And you can get it from Ground News. Add the app to your phone or watch it online. And as you add this app, we get a small commission for you joining the club. Go to our website. This is theconversationproject.com/ground news. This is theconversationproject.com/ground news for our direct link for our affiliate to Ground News, and get your news with more, let's just say, confidence on who's telling what stories out there for the world. Quick chance to promote ourselves in the Conversation Project. Our website is theconversationproject.com. We'll talk more about the feeds and things in just a moment, but you want to stop by our website and find out some things that you may be missing, or some things that you never thought you would be missing but are there. We put a link to every single main presentation we have here for the Conversation Project. So our daily show, which is things you might not have heard, is there. The weekly wrap up is there. Links to our syndicated column, we put that out there and send it out to various places for them to use as a column if they want to. It's out there as well. We're going to find out new ways to add new things. We've recently split the things you might ought to know and the things you might not have heard. That's might not to know. What ought to know are the fun stuff, the birthdays, and the history lesson stuff into two shows to make that easier to digest. We'll get those back into the website as well, so those aren't missed. And you can also find out where we're located, various spots, including TikTok, including YouTube, including Threads. All the links to where we are there. Stop by our website and you can subscribe to our email newsletter, which we would love you to do. Subscribe to us in other forms that are audio version if you're watching the video, or video version you're watching the audio. All the stuff's there as well. We'll go deeper into detail on where everything is, including the feeds and email, in just a moment. But right now, I want to take a moment to thank our partners. We take a little time at the end of the weekend shows, the Friday and Saturday shows, to thank the folks who are directly sponsoring us, directly helping us out, directly feeding the fire for things going on. These are our partners, and they use the buymeacoffee.com platform, buymeacoffee.com/Jacob to fund us in cups of coffee, theoretically, to keep things going here. There's also ways to talk to us directly through a Venmo, via Cash App, and via PayPal. But if you want to be a membership on a subscriber basis using this platform, it's plain and simple and easy. Harold Braxton, Colby Green, and Eldon Kidd, and Joy Winters. If you're watching the scroll, they've been at the bottom for most of the show. Cup of Coffee venues are $5 a month subscribers, and spare change for Joy Winters is a $1 a month subscription. Those little bits of change for the past couple of months have helped us squirrel up enough money for some new equipment, and we're glad for that one. So things are going better, and hopefully we're back to a venue where I can speak and my lips are actually synced with the service that we're using for our streaming platform. This is because there was a link issue with the equipment that wasn't staying in sync. This is all helped by you going to our sponsors and buying from them and getting affiliate actions. That's awesome. You go into our partnership page, become a partner, means you get an extra hand what's going on here. We also get some extra commentary, some extra insight what's going on behind the scenes from partners. Anytime you want to get to me, they have a special link to get to me and chat things up. And they get first dibs in conversations on things to do or not do. I don't necessarily follow them 100%, but they are essentially the board of directors, and SCOTA gives us some guidance moving forward. So we thank our partners and thank Buy Me a Coffee for giving us that platform. Check out buymeacoffee.com/Jacob Payne, or click the links inside of this presentation to join up and become a partner. And now, officially, how you can interact with the Conversation Project. Our website, as we said, is conversationproject.com. We have links there for the partnerships page, the sponsors page, all of past episodes of stuff out there, and how you can find out the story, the origin, our origin story. As momentous as it isn't, it just sort of happened, but you can see how we got to be where we are here. You can email us anytime you want to. You don't have to be a partner to get in contact with me. Email me for free at theconversationinbox@gmail.com, and we can chat up anything you like or dislike for the Conversation Project and these things here. And of course, the feeds, the fabled feeds. How do we get the stories that we chat about here and how we get them into the daily show? We put out links to stories every 50 minutes or so throughout every single day, 7 days a week, on Facebook and on X. Also on Threads. We need to change this slide as well, but Threads doesn't give us the best stats, so it's just sort of like a for Threads. Facebook.com/This is the Conversation Project. X.com/TH_conversation. Check them out today, tomorrow, all day, all the time. And as you see things happening in the threads or in the feeds, Threads included, you can engage in the story and tell us what's worth talking about. Just click the whatever emoji it is to say that you engage in it, liking it. And Facebook, you can love it. You can hate all those things like that. Chat up with us. Give some comments. Have some comments so we can actually go back and forth and reply in what's going on. For some reason, X is kind of a pest in getting comments straight to us where we can reply directly. But we see the comments, we go through them, we do our best to take your words in consideration. Sometimes they're hurtful, but they are sometimes. And the more you engage in the story, the better chance we have of talking about it in our next iterations. Our next iteration of things you might not have heard, the weekly show, is on Monday. And Monday gives you 10 stories that we'll pull from the top 30 or so stories from the 90 or so stories we get from the weekend. So those stories will get a consideration. We'll pull 10 and go from there. The rest of the week, it's going to be 8 stories from the top half, use about 15 or so of the 30 or so stories we get throughout the day from Tuesday through Friday. I had a math number that was in my head with what they'll add up to. I'm not doing math in my head right now because that would be really impressive, really depressing, actually. But you get that. Follow the feeds, talk about the stories you want to talk about, and go back to our website and tell us what we're doing and email us. Tell us what we're doing right or wrong going forward with all that to be said. That's it. We're done. The weekly roundup for the week ending September 28th, 2024. A very good presentation, I believe. I got a chance to update some slides, get some information there, and hopefully my lips are moving with my words because we plugged in a couple extra boxes to make sure things would work. As we said before, you can follow us on our feeds and let us know what stories to talk about literally every single day. You can respond to us in various ways, including watching for videos on TikTok and YouTube that are popping up as either clips from the news feeds or inside things popping up as news breaks, and let us know how we're faring with conversation. And like, share, and subscribe to get more people in the conversation. The more people we have who are subscribed to our mix, the better chance we have of getting more things in and getting more conversations, getting more feedback, and more ways I can reach out to affiliate sponsors and maybe full-time actual sponsorships and stop begging you guys for money. It could happen. Of course, become a partner and I'll keep begging you for money, and you can also join up and give us more information on that as well. With that all being said, have done said, done said, all said. Thank you so much for joining us for this presentation from the Conversation Project. Love you. Mean it. What stories will make it throughout the daily shows and what will be the ones that catch my attention for the week to give you in a roundup? We'll see you in 7 days. We'll talk about that one. Oh, by the way, if it matters, if it works anything, tomorrow's a celebration that you want to maybe pop into our feeds and see, because actual birthday, round number birthday, milestone number 50 happening. I might look young, but trust me, these tires are well worn going forward. So we'll have something special for everyone this weekend for that one. So check it out, if you will.